welcome back to another video. Today we are doing a review on the iPhone 6s. Now this is coming from a 2020 perspective, so everything I am saying here is related to things I've used, such as the Pixel 2 XL from my budget series, as well as the flagships I've used. Another quick thing just before we start, for the budget challenge, we're going to be doing the comparison video next between this and the Pixel 2 XL, and I've decided that we're going to give away the winner. Stay tuned for that video, make sure you watch, and you'll have a chance of winning one of those two phones. Now let's get on to the phone itself. Here's the fingerprint scanner. As you can see, it is very good. The biometrics on here is nice. The scanner itself was a pretty good improvement actually from the 6. Okay, first the price. As you guys may know or may not know, this was part of my budget series, where I had a budget of $75. So I was able to get this for under that, and I needed to make sure there were 32 gigabytes of storage. That and the battery capacity percentage. Now we'll talk quickly about the specs of this phone. So as I've alluded to, this phone's base storage is 16 gigabytes, with mine obviously having 32 gigabytes. This has 2 gigabytes of RAM, but these same principles that apply to Android don't apply to iOS. So 2 gigabytes is misleading. Nevertheless, it's not great. And the Apple A9 is the chip that was used on this model. And for a 2015 chip, it actually holds up pretty well. Display and design. So if you know anything about the iPhone series, you would know that this is a pretty iconic design. They basically used this design from the iPhone 6 to the iPhone 8. Now, there obviously are some slight differences, but overall the form factor and the bezels were about the same. And since this and the 6 series sold a combined of over 200 million units, I think it's quite fair to say that this design is iconic, may bring back some nostalgia for some folks. Now, the display is a 4.7 inch 750 by 1334p LCD display. I found it to be pretty good, especially for a lower resolution than 1080p and an LCD display. I'm one of those people who can tell the difference between 720 and 1080p videos, so I did notice this at times, but the colors look pretty good, and since it is a smaller size phone, it's a lot more difficult to see the resolution difference. So as you know, in a lot of my reviews, I like to show off YouTube just because it's my favorite. So here's aspect ratio of what somebody like Linus uses. And right here you can see it says 1080p, but it's not true 1080p because the device doesn't actually support it. But overall, it looks good. I think it could be better for sure, but it does maximize the screen pretty well. We're going to play the same copyright-free music that we did in the previous one, but I just want to show you this is what normal aspect ratios like iShoot-In, Unbox Therapy, all those kind of people, this is what it will look like. It utilizes the entire screen, unlike on a lot of phones due to the different aspect ratios. So it's nice. If it did not maximize the screen at this size, then it'd be extremely disappointing, to be honest. But here, the sound quality I'm going to show you guys. I found it surprisingly good for a single speaker setup. Pretty clear, but you can still cover it, obviously. So we'll give you a quick taste. As you can see right there, it's quite easy to just, put your finger on it or protrude a little bit of it. Nevertheless, it's still pretty good. It's very clear, and Apple has done speakers on phones well for a while. Okay, next we'll go with the camera, and right about here I'll start showing you guys my test photos. We're not going to show you guys the full review photos yet and video, because that will come in the direct comparison camera video, but right here I just wanted to show you guys what I've got. I want to say that I called the Google Pixel 2 XL the camera king at this price point. You know what, that still stands. So this camera isn't as good as that one. It doesn't do nearly as well in nighttime photos, and I found the Pixel to take better overall pictures. Then again, the Pixel's 2 years newer, and Google's been very good with their computational photography as well. Nevertheless, at this price range, this is still a great option because it does pretty well in video, really good in daytime. Although the camera is pretty good, what's not is the battery life. So this uses a 1715 milliamp hour battery, and it's abysmal. That being said, like I said with RAM, the spec sheet doesn't always apply to Apple due to iOS's efficiency. But in this case, and I'll show you guys real quickly my screen on time with what I played and everything, it's not good, okay? Truthfully, it's hard for me to recommend this phone with this bad of battery life. If you have a little bit of extra cash to shell out, find yourself a 6S Plus just because of battery life. Now, for those people who are doing social media only, taking some photos, the battery life's still not going to be great, but I think it's going to be serviceable. Now we'll talk about performance and gaming. And as I've said earlier in this video, the Apple A9 holds up pretty well. In light applications, everything's smooth. The UI is great. See, we could go to Snapchat right here. It's smooth. Go to Twitter. Well, yeah, we'll even go to Twitter. Now, right here, everything's pretty smooth. Now, high refresh rates have spoiled me, so it doesn't feel as great, speaking of high refresh rates. But anyway, the OS is great. Apple has always done so much with so little hardware, and this is just a prime example of that. Although I say in most regular tasks, the performance is smooth, animations are great. Gaming, I did find some hiccups. So I played a full game and recorded PUBG, and that's gonna go on the comparison video, so I'll show you guys what I got from there. But in this video, we're gonna do my normal COD Mobile test. And okay, we finally got in, so we'll play a game. Here's a quick back and forth, and right in the start of the game, you can see feels a little bit off, but overall the frames look pretty good.
We lost the lead.
And I am not going where I should be.
This is close. Find our trip. UAV recon standing by. Repeat, UAV recon is standing by. We've taken
Uh-oh. Yep, he got me from behind. I don't know how I got those guys. Gaming is pretty solid for this price point, especially for how old this phone is, but this is not a gamer's phone. As you can see, I was about 70% before playing even that short game, and gaming just absolutely killed my battery. We're gonna move on and talk about some features. Now, this was the first phone with 3D Touch, and they had since eliminated 3D Touch on the 11 series, but I really like it. Let's go Twitter just to show you guys. That's what 3D Touch looks like. If you haven't seen it, I'm sure many of you have. I like it, but personally, I don't use it extremely often, but it's a nice feature to have. Haptic touch is still sufficient, and the haptic engine on this itself is really good. It's one of those things Apple has done really well for a long time. Now with this phone, you also get access to all the Apple ecosystem. You get your iMessage, your FaceTime, your AirDrop, and you can have access to an Apple Watch, the best smartwatch on the market. So this phone having iOS 13 and being supported brings you into the Apple ecosystem. Lastly, I'll conclude with iOS 13. iOS 13 is fantastic. It's important for me to mention that. So now with iOS 14 coming up, we're not sure if the 6S is going to get it. It could be dropped off from that. And if it is, then something like the Pixel, who's going to get Android 11, is going to have longer software support. Now, on this version of iOS 13, they'll still be updating it, just like they did with the iPhone 6 on iOS 12. Now, other iOS 13 things I love, dark mode, it's great, works really well. Yeah, obviously here in Twitter, I love the dark mode. And in many apps, it just feels better to me. I really am hoping that this phone will get iOS 14, but if it does not, it's still a great option. And we'll conclude with that. If you really want to go iOS, the iPhone 6S is a good option. For the price point, it does pretty well, and even though I'm used to a lot of the flagships and stuff, this thing still got me through. Now, having to charge with a 5-watt charger when this battery was this bad was awful, so if you can, go for the 6S Plus, but if you can't, don't worry about it. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for the comparison to the Pixel 2 XL that's coming shortly. Thank you so much for watching, and peace.